What is cinematic? In this video, I show you the top 6 elements in filmmaking that make your footage cinematic. Each element can be applied individually to get a piece of cinematicness, or you can apply them all at once to get the ultimate cinematic look. My name is Johannes, and I shot my first narrative feature film earlier this year, with no budget and on my own. Last week I received my first awards for it. The Filmhaus Berlin awards my film The Black and White Game as winner in the category Best Cinematography. The top 6 in this video have been the 6 most important cinematic elements of my film and therefore the cornerstone for this award. Let's start. Number 6. Do not overexpose. Nothing is more amateurish in video and film than overexposure. You only pay attention to the object in the foreground and the sky is too wide and no longer contains any information. This makes the image look very digital and any aesthetics are lost. Expose the image for the brightest part in the framing. If the object is too dark, use a reflector or add some artificial light. If this is not possible, shoot the scene in a silhouette rather than overexposing the sky. Then you have an expressionistic style that should be consistent throughout the film. Fales colors is my favorite tool for exposure, but the zebra tool is also very useful. Number 5. Motivated light. Another important element for cinematic shots when combining natural light and artificial light is that the artificial light always has a motivational source. Like here, the protagonist in my feature film, and that's me by the way, is sitting in the tent and writing. Next to him is an oil lamp. Only the oil lamp alone would not light the scene enough and it would be heavily underexposed. So I put a Godox ML60B next to the oil lamp, out of frame, and set a flickering effect, so it looks like it's the flickering of the oil lamp. Another example. Here in this scene it looks like the light is coming only from the window, but that is not the case, because the light was not strong enough. So I put a Godox 100B with a softbox near the window, that I get the natural light and also the nice outline of the backlight. Number 4. Minimal composition. To create a simple location epic and cinematic, it is necessary to pay attention to simplicity, straight leading lines and space. Less is more. Unnecessary and disturbing things must not be included in the framing.
Where to go, beautiful woman?
Number 3. Depth. Often a shallow depth of field is identified with a cinematic image. But this point is missing in my list, because one point is much more important. Depth. Place your object so that there is great depth and dynamics behind it. Anything placed directly against the wall will look flat. For my short film Die Before You Die, I shot this scene first like this, and then with much more depth in the background like this. The difference is fatal and the haze in the background really comes into its own. Number 2. Dynamic range. This point is more about your instrument, your camera. The lower the dynamic range, in other words, the fewer steps between black and white, the more digital and flat the image looks. If the dynamic range is high, meaning there are many stops between black and white, we get detail in the shadows and highlights, which makes the image look very cinematic. For comparing, check out this video. Test shot versus final shot with low dynamic range and high dynamic range. Cheap cinema cameras like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K have a fantastic dynamic range with about 13 stops. This is the big advantage for indie filmmakers nowadays who have a low budget compared to earlier times when only the high-end cinema cameras had a high dynamic range. And the winner is number 1, backlight. Number 1 concerns the cinematographer's lighting. There is a rule that guarantees you cinematic lighting. Place the main light source behind your object, either as a silhouette with one light, which always looks cinematic, like here. In this scene, the environment was too unstable for a lit scene, so I decided to use a silhouette shot. This is always a cinematic stopgap and stylistic device should there be difficulties with the composition of the image. But not only silhouette shots are affected. In dialogues, the side of the facing the camera should be the shadow side, like here. If the style of the film is not quite so expressionistic, the shadow should be lightened with a fill light. If you want to know the #1 rule for script writing, click here. Or if you want to know how I made my first feature film, click here. Thank you and see you soon.